Now, the presidency has dismissed speculations of a plan to stop the use of the Bimodal voter accreditation system, otherwise known as Bivas, in next year's elections. There were fears from some civil society organizations and the coalition of united political parties about plans to deactivate Bivas from being used in the election and ultimately stop electronic transmission of results. But a spokesman for Muhammadu Buhari says the president will stand by the deployment of Bivas to ensure free and fair elections. The presidency also denies rumors of a plan to remove Mahmoud Yakubu as chairman of the electoral body, INEC.
Well, joining us now is INEC's former Director of Legal and Voter Education, Oluwole Osaze Uzzi. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsnight.
Thank you for having me. Good evening.
Yes. So why do you think the issue of the Bivas has, suddenly become a controversial matter? That's, people are expressing fears, especially the coalition of political parties, saying there are plans to discard the Bivas. What do you make of that? And who really is afraid of the Bivas?
Very good question. Who really is afraid of Bivas? I think politicians who are afraid of testing their popularity amongst the electorates are the ones who should be concerned and afraid of Bivas. People who are used to shortchanging the system, subverting the system, who are not used to being elected by the popular vote. I think those are the only people who should be afraid of Bivas. But there's nothing new in these developments. Recall that in 2015, when the smart card reader was first introduced, people were enthusiastic about it, but then again there was some suspicion, and even those who voted gave INEC money to acquire these equipment, and believe it, when they saw that this thing could be a game changer, then started singing a different tune, and it's deja vu. It's almost the whole thing repeating itself, history repeating itself again. In the budgets for INEC for last year and for this year, provision has been made. It's an act of the National Assembly. The Appropriation Act makes provision for INEC to acquire a lot of these equipment. So for a couple of years, INEC has been test running this, has bought this equipment, passed by the National Assembly, passed by the same politicians. And in the Electoral Act of 2022, the use of smart card reader or any other technological device is entrenched in the act. And politicians across party lines signed up for this. So all of a sudden, there's this groundswell that certain people, and it has to be the political class, because it's not CSO, it's not voters. It's, I think confidence has come with the increases of technology and the demonstration of how effective that Bivas has been in the off-cycle governorship elections. So I really don't know who will be afraid. No, so obviously people who don't want things to go well with the electoral process.
Okay. And I'm glad that you mentioned the smart card readers that were introduced.
Yes.
Because I recall we're also enthusiastic, looking forward to that. Despite the assurances, we saw the hiccups in the general elections. We've seen them, trickle down to even off-season elections with our introduction of technology. So let me ask you, as someone who understands the workings of INEC, is there or could there be any circumstance whatsoever that will likely necessitate INEC to jettison the Bivas in any part of the country?
INEC is like any other responsible organization. Recall that when we first started using our ATM cards, we had serious issues and challenges. Any new technology has its own issues. The most sophisticated technology we can think of, the kind of rockets that send people to the moon or to outer space. And we do know there were incidents and people lost their lives in the process of space exploration. It was nothing man-made is foolproof. So yes, anybody deploying technology realizes that in your satellite communication, in your broadcast, you see some glitches and hitches with technology once in a while. So INEC, as a responsible, realizes this. So there's always a plan B. And if you look at the Electoral Act of 2022, there's a realization that yes, sometimes the Bivas may not work as efficiently or as effectively as we want it to do. Now, where it does not work, provision is made for extras to be brought onto the field. But sometimes it may not be practical, or there may not be enough, or there'll just be a failure of technology. The Electoral Act says you go on the election in that particular unit or area will be postponed for 24 hours. it will only be jettisoned if the margin of lead between the first and second candidates is so large that the number of accredited voters or number of people who have picked up their PVCs in those polling units will not make any difference. In that case, then you can go ahead and make a return. So yes, there's a realization that things can go wrong, and there's plan B and plan C. What should happen if this occurs?
What could those plan B or C's actually be? Because I'm wondering, I mean, what needs to be improved on the BVAS before 2023 so that Nigerians will have confidence, absolute confidence, that the BVAS, will not or cannot be circumvented. And I'd also like it, please, just address that
it's
first.
man-made, so
Right.
when you say it cannot be circumvented, I think every technologically savvy person will tell you that there is no system that cannot be circumvented.
Yeah, but does INEC have systems in place to ensure that any attempt to circumvent the BVAS will fail?
Well, certainly. Don't forget that the BVAS is not necessarily an online thing. Because it's an online thing, the exposure to being hacked or to being undermined is severely limited. It only goes online when it wants to transmit results from the polling unit. And if there's no service in that particular locality, as you move to the collation center, it will pick up service and such will be transmitted. It doesn't have to be online to accredit people. So that's that. But as I told you, if for any reason the functionality of the BVAS is called into question, then you can get another equipment, another BVAS to replace that other one. So that's one of the backup plans. But worst case scenario, if after repeated attempts you cannot replace sufficient number of BVAS within a specified time between 2:30 p.m. when the polls are supposed to close, then the election will be postponed. That is yet another safety device, another plan that INEC has in position and in place.
In the past, with the smart card readers, we've seen Plan B to be incident forms. Right. In this instance, INEC is insisting BVAS has come
To stay.
and incident forms have gone forever. How wise is that decision?
Very wise. But I don't think Plan B was incident forms, actually. It was one of the
Well,
plans.
we do fall back to
It was one of the
incident
four,
forms.
absolutely. It was
Yeah,
one of
not
the four
Plan B,
back
but
plans.
we were falling back to that.
Correct, correct.
Okay.
But that is where the BVAS could not be, the smart card reader could not be the challenges or problems could not be rectified and no replacement could be found. Then the idea was that, look, nobody who's registered or whose name appears in the register should be deprived of voting. It's a right, so don't deprive them of voting. But we saw the abuse of that. So, but now we said, no, that is why it's a bimodal system of accreditation. So if your fingerprints don't read, don't forget, the smart card reader was just fingerprints.
Yeah.
That was the only biometrics I was going to read. Now we have the fingerprints and we have the face recognition. So that's a fallback position. One has to apply. If it doesn't, if it fails for whatever reason, then I'm afraid that you will not be allowed to vote. And don't forget, when you say Nigerians need confidence, yes, they do. But several states have tried this BVAS. In Anambra, for example, in Ekiti, in Osun, they have used this BVAS.
It wasn't perfect in Anambra. There were issues in Anambra State.
Yes, that was the first major.
Yes.
But in Isoko, before then, it was, and for Ekiti.
But can we use oxygen to
test the...
I mean, it's a general election. We're talking about
so
all across the country.
over 20 states across the country.
36 states and the FCT.
Well, not all of them will be having elections. Well, it depends on
all
which
states,
elections.
all states.
The presidential elections.
Presidential, National Assembly, State Assembly, in all states.
Well,
only the governorship election will not hold in 8 states or thereabouts.
So can we really base off-season election performances
on what to expect in 2023?
Oh, certainly, of course. Why not? Okay. You test run things. That is why you take sample things, you test run things, and those were the test runs. In the case of the smart card reader, there was even no test run. It was used for the first time in the general elections. There were hitches, but it was fairly okay in almost all instances. Few examples.
As we inch towards the 2023 elections, what would you say are the challenges that INEC, is likely to face, and how is INEC going to overcome those challenges, whether in the area of logistics or technology deployment and all of that? Because I recall that INEC has yet to release accreditation machine, for example, and BVAS to Southeast states, of course, blaming the insecurity challenges and all of that. You want to speak to that?
Well, I don't know about release of BVAS machines to the Southeast states. The question of release to states hasn't arisen because deployment for the elections of sensitive materials hasn't commenced to the best of my knowledge. So I'm not aware that Bivas, as they are, have gone to states. Don't forget, Anambra was the first governorship election where Bivas was used in the southeast states.
Right.
So when somebody says that it hasn't been released to southeast states, I'm not too sure how to take that.
Accreditation machines and all of that.
That's Bivas.
Yeah.
That's the Bivas. It was used in Anambra.
Okay.
And the southeast was the first place where it was used for on such a scale.
Great. What are the challenges you envisage, and how do you think INEC
in every
can
part of
overcome
the every issue, every part of the electoral process has its own challenges, be it accreditation, be it technology, be it logistics, security. And security is, to me, one of the most important concerns because of the way we've lived through Abuja in the last week or two, and we know, for example, the security threat alerts that have been issued by foreign governments and their reassurances. Good thing that has been given by the federal government, and we know the security challenges all across the nation. People must feel safe to want to go out to vote. People must feel safe to go out to campaign. Candidates and political parties have to go out to campaign. But if we are hoping that the security will have so improved that there'll be confidence in the process, such that the people come out to exercise their franchise. That is the biggest challenge as far as I'm concerned.
Mr. Osaze Uzzi, I can't recall in recent history an INEC chairman that has not, been asked to vacate or questions raised about his stay in office.
Yes.
And currently they're saying this removal of Professor Mahmoud Yakubu from office, how important is it? Because you speak to confidence in INEC.
Yes, absolutely.
How significant is it for us to have that conversation about the independence of INEC?
A threat to the tenure of chairman has been a recurring decimal in all our electoral bodies right from inception. I joined the commission at inception in 1999, and right from just Akpata's time to Gubadia to Professor Iwu to Professor Jiga, that has been a recurring decimal. Sometimes more serious, calls are more serious than at other times. The referees in Nigeria will always be blamed for any shortcomings. Some may be justified, some may not be. But I don't know how to take this announcement from the presidency. The Constitution lays out the procedure for removing the INEC chairman or any other person. But when you start talk of removing the chairman, who's the Chief Electoral Commissioner of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, so close to the election, barely 4 months election, that is a very worrisome trend. But the presidency can only remove a chairman or any national commissioner if 2/3 of the Senate agree to that. There's an address by 2/3 of the members of the National Assembly addressed to the president. A few months or maybe a year or two ago, I probably wouldn't have bothered too much, but we have seen secure positions like the Chief Justice of Nigeria being removed from office. So there is reason to worry. It might not be lawful, it might not be legal, but certain people who are determined to do certain things will try it or attempt it and maybe get away with it. So that is worrisome, and I think the media, the CSOs, people must be on top of this of this thing. Except there is very good reason, and the Constitution has given us reasons. If due to infirmity or due to an abuse of office, we see that, look, this man is not good for this position, it is only under those circumstances you start talking of removing it. Not for flimsy things, not for capricious things, no.
Well, the fact is the presidency has denied any such plans, so we can rest assured. Thank you very much, Mr. Oluwole Osaze Uzzi, former Director of Voter Education, INEC.